It's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's upcoming indie game releases for the week of September 16th through the 20th of 2024. Hello everyone, my name is Gamer Joe, here with the complete rundown of the most exciting games that will have your wallet crying once again this week. I hope you're doing well and enjoying some nice cool weather. I know I certainly have been. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you love indie gaming as much as we do, and this is another big list of 50 indie releases total, so let's get into things. But before we tackle the main indie releases for this week, we do want to take a moment to thank our wonderful indie sponsor who is helping us to create shows like this, keep the lights on here at I Dream of Indie Games, and bring you the indie content you so love. It's the folks over at Gravity. We know that many Souls-like fans watch I Dream of Indie Games. Well, here's the sponsor you've been waiting for. Get ready for intense boss rush action in Light Odyssey, being developed by Sun Games. Citing an absolute classic, Shadow of the Colossus, alongside the original Dark Souls as inspirations, Light Odyssey will pit players against massive, and I mean massive, bosses. Releasing next year, 2025, the game has already wowed audiences, winning the Creativity Award at last year's Gamescom Asia. Taking place in a world of light and darkness, you'll control Bandy, tasked with putting an end to the dark forces forever. Gorgeous cutscenes will push this hard-hitting narrative forward, accompanied by stunning musical compositions. Players will need to topple 11 different bosses who all feature unique patterns which will need to be mastered if you hope to survive. Your environment will also be an enemy, changing dramatically as the battles progress. Even cooler, the developers have done their own motion capture work, giving the game a great sense of realism. Outside of these epic, huge battles, there will also be puzzles to solve, so you'll need to use that old noggin of yours too. Stay on guard. Dash and slash your way to victory using the game's refined combat system, and see if you can restore light to the world once more. So, what are you waiting for, folks? Use the link in our description box below to head over to the Light Odyssey Steam page and wishlist the game today. Once again, a very special thank you to Gravity for sponsoring this video. I can't wait to play Light Odyssey for myself, but I'm also excited to get into these indie releases for the week with you, so let's do it. Alright, our first release. It's fitting because I absolutely love trains. In fact, I live very close to one, and when it isn't holding me up in traffic, I always enjoy hearing the sound of the train traveling along the tracks. Maybe I should check out Train Yard Builder, releasing on the 16th. Craft your own tracks using a variety of different trains and wagons, and even put combinations of the two together. Paint the trains and make them look however you wish. Use switches and customize to your heart's content in this light-hearted train simulation title. Are trains not your thing? Maybe planes? Or automobiles? Well, this game might do the trick then. Cars, yes, more specifically, have you ever wanted to sell cars? Well, here's your opportunity in Auto Sale Life. You are the big cheese buying cars, selling them for profit, and building relationships with people. You are on a quest to own the ultimate auto gallery. Talk about wheeling and dealing. This release will be coming to us from Otto Games and Grab the Games. Early access to begin. And speaking of early access, we're gonna change things up with a Survivors-like that features co-op play. This one up to 4 players, I love to see that. This is Spell Brigade coming to us from Bolt Blaster Games. This early access release will have you and your friends battling back baddies together and completing objectives as a team. With tons of monsters and upgrades alongside a variety of spells, this title should be a blast. Well, it comes from Bolt Blaster Games, so it better be a blast. Just be careful because friendly fire is a very real thing in this title. That scares me a bit. Don't like friendly fire. What I do like, though, is a nice little rhythm game, and also on the 16th, it looks like I'll get one. Let's feel the rhythm of the beat with this next release, Starstruck, Hands of Time. This unusual-looking title has you traveling through time with your guitar, and you'll even use a Guitar Hero controller if you still have one laying around to play. The game features musical sections for you to strum along to, and destructible environments in a tiny, tiny world. That certainly sounds fascinating, and it's times like these where I'm glad my plastic instruments are still in the basement. Time to dust them off and play some Starstruck. If these indie releases don't have you starstruck yet, well then let's head on over to an action-adventure title based off of Scottish folklore. It's called Judero. Judero's stop-motion animation looks really wild, with fascinating combat and the promise of epic boss battles. Players will also have the option of possessing their enemies. On top of that, there's going to be a lot of exploration to be done, and even some mini-games to break up the gameplay a bit. Bizarre indies like this are why I love covering the indie scene so much. And hey, we want to continue to cover the indie scene. We can't do it without you, so just a quick reminder that you can support independent content like this over at patreon.com/idreamofindiegames and gain yourself Discord access, early shows, and support indie visibility. And hey, if you're on Patreon, you're watching this show way earlier than everyone else. So go ahead and gloat about it in the comments if you're double dipping here on YouTube. Either way, your new indie gaming community is excited to meet you. Alright, with that shameless plug out of the way, perhaps the most anticipated indie release this week, and maybe even this year, is the adorable looking title from Devolver Digital called The Plucky Squire. This storybook brought to life mixes 2D and 3D and puts you on a quest to discover your missing friends, defeat the wretched Hump Grump, and literally rewrite history in this amazing looking adventure that has plenty of hype to live up to, but seems like it will deliver, honestly. Will you be taking control of Jot? Well, you should at least jot this one down on your wish list, but let us know in the comments below. I got a feeling a lot of you are excited to play this title. So maybe this next release doesn't have quite that amount of hype around it, but it deserves some love too, releasing on the 17th. RPG fans, it's going to be the Sundered Tribes, and it's a survival action RPG with those building and management elements y'all seem to either really love or really hate. But what makes this title stand out a bit is the aerial combat. Ooh, fascinating. I'll have this one on my radar at least, even though I'm not Mr. Builder, but hey, I do like myself a good RPG, and that combat does look fun. After you've put your RPG and building skills to the test, save a little room in your brain, puzzle game fans, because you're up next. Take control of a museum researcher on Atlas as you solve cryptic puzzles on an alien ship. This is Machinika Atlas, the sequel to Machinika Museum, and players can expect more challenge, better visuals, and a deep narrative here. These puzzles will not be simple, so get your thinking caps on for this one. The game looks very beautiful, and I now feel inspired to check out the original too. As we continue on through the 17th, we have a Metroidvania title for you. Yes, Metroidvania is by far the most popular genre on this channel. It's Marko, Beyond Brave, releasing this week at last. It's been in development for a while. This was a Kickstarter title, and the developers have cited Disney as an inspiration for the look and animations of this release, with the game also being inspired by Slavic folklore. The 2D art is looking quite nice, I have to say. The map is large, and we will just have to see how it plays. Hopefully, it plays just as good as it looks. While that one might put up a bit of a challenge, I think it won't come close to the difficulty level of Enotria, the last song, which is releasing on the 18th. This Souls-like is inspired by Italian folklore and puts you in control of Maskless One across 3 regions, and there's going to be over 40 hours of gameplay, so a massive title. The game will feature various masks, skills, and ways to build your character that make it very customizable. Players will also be able to swap between 3 different fighting stances, which should add an element of strategy to the combat. If that's too tough for you and you want to challenge yourself narratively a bit, well then Keylocker, turn-based cyberpunk action, is also launching on the 18th from Munana and Serenity Forge. This is a stylish-looking RPG, and it's going to be releasing on all major platforms. The game does have a unique premise to it, with music being outlawed. Now that sounds pretty terrible, but as far as video game plots are concerned, pretty cool concept. And with the developers citing the Mario and Luigi RPG games alongside Chrono Trigger as inspirations, this is one that will be shooting up to the near top of my indie wish list, and I imagine RPG fans are pretty excited about it too. On to the 18th, this is a collection of games that you don't see every day, UFO 50. And if you couldn't figure it out from the title, that means 50 games will be included in this one release. everything from RPGs to classic platformers, puzzle games, you name it. What's interesting here is the developer is saying that these are not going to be little mini-games at all. Rather, they're going to be fully contained experiences, and some of them could potentially take several hours to get through, including a full-fledged RPG experience. The story is based around an 80s video game company that has created these titles, and hey, some of them will also feature multiplayer. This sounds ambitious and kind of awesome. While this next release isn't quite 8-bit classic, it is a classic nonetheless. Returning once again, it's Broken Sword, Shadow of the Templars, Reforged Edition. This update to the original point-and-click adventure will have remastered audio and gorgeous visuals that will now be presented in full 4K, so get those 4K displays ready. It will still contain the same well-written story fans of the game remember too. I've played a few games in the Broken Sword franchise and always enjoyed them, so it's gonna be really fun to revisit it once again. Alright, as a fan of Stray, I fully support more narrative-driven adventures starring cats. Looks like that's exactly what I'll be getting with the release of CopyCat on the 19th. You'll take control of an abandoned kitty that gets caught up in a dangerous game of cat and mouse, I guess you could say. The narrative seems pretty emotional in this one, as you control Dawn and try to find a new place where you belong. This one also promises full voice acting and an emotional set of compositions to go along with that hard-hitting story. Now we look to the 20th, and we have an eagerly anticipated city builder survival game. It's Frostpunk 2. This follow-up to the original takes place 30 years after a destructive blizzard, and now you'll need to pick up the pieces of a world that once was. Care for your city and the people within through strategic planning, create buildings and form alliances in either story mode or the sandbox utopia builder option. If all of that weren't enough, the game will have full mod support, which is always a nice addition. So there you have all the major releases, but we aren't done yet. Don't go anywhere, give me that watch time now. Let's roll that beautiful indie footage of some of the smaller games worth checking out this week. Voice to the voiceless, everybody.